this lesson, we're going to look at continuing to write expressions, but we're going to look at it in terms of some real-world situations. And all of this is going to kind of be building on writing equations. That's why we're spending a lot of time focusing on just translating an expression. So as we look at some of these problems, you may feel like you want to do more, but we're kind of breaking this down into pieces. So make sure, I know in the note template I did go ahead and type out the essential question for you, but if you happen to be writing your notes yourself, please make sure you write your essential question at the top of your notebook along with your topic. Okay? Okay, so we're going to add a little bit, add kind of one more piece to writing expressions, and that is the piece of defining your variable. Whenever we look at word problems in algebra, we always want to make sure we know what our variable represents. So define your variable, define your unknown, okay, because that's what a variable represents, an unknown, right? And so an example of what I'm talking about here is it could be as simple as x equals the number. Okay, I'm okay if you use symbols too. Or it could be maybe, let's use a different variable. A equals the number of adults. Okay, so these are just some examples of what I'm talking about. Those are examples of how we define our variable. Okay, and then once we do that, then we're going to write an expression in terms of our chosen variable or unknown, what we've called it. So we're going to look at 3 examples together. Okay, so read that to yourself. Zoom out just a little bit. Julio made $83 less than 7 times what Bo made. The sum of their earnings is $381. Write an expression to determine how much Julio made. Okay, so I want you to see here, we're focusing on Julio. Okay, and in this problem, we actually have a little bit of extra information that we don't need right now. Later on, we'll need this information, but for now, this information we don't need, that I crossed out, we don't need. We only need this sentence that describes how much Julio made. Okay? So it says Julio made $83 less than 7 times what Bo made. Now I know we don't know what Julio made, but what else is it that we don't know? We don't know how much Bo made. And we have to know how much Bo made in order to figure out how much Julio made, right? So in this particular example, our variable, our unknown that we're going to define is how much money Bo made. Okay? So now we can describe with an expression what Julio made. And see, this is where it comes translating it word for word. Julio made 83 less than 7 times Bo. So how are we going to write that? That's going to be 7b minus 83. Super easy. And you can use whatever variable you want. I want you to get used to using other variables besides x, but it's not wrong if you use x. Okay? Question? Well, you can ask me a question. Okay, the next one. Let's look at the next one. The perimeter of a rectangle is 42 centimeters. The width is 7 centimeters less than the length. Write an expression to determine the width. So I want you to see here again, for right now, we have some extra information. The perimeter of 42 would be important if we were actually going to solve this problem, but all we're doing is writing an expression. We're just trying to set up the pieces of the problem, okay? Now, let's look at this sentence. So we're trying to define or describe the width. Notice in this right here, it says the width is 7 centimeters less than the length. So we're using the length to describe our width. So that means but we don't know what the length is, right? So our length is unknown. That's our variable. So I'm going to use it L. And so our variable, our unknown, is the length. And now I can describe the width with our variable L. 7 less than the length. And so our expression for the length would be L, or I'm sorry, for the width would be L minus 7. Okay, let's look at the next example. Jamie spent $7.61 at the convenience store. This is $3.50 more than 3 times the amount of money that Aaron spent. Write an expression to determine how much Jamie spent. Okay, so we do know, I paused for a minute because that threw me. We actually know that Jamie spent $7.61, right? We actually know that. But we want to, this expression, we want it to describe how she got $7.61, right? So I want you to see here that we're describing that in terms of Aaron. So our unknown here is E for Aaron. We don't know how much Aaron spent. Okay, so we can describe that using this sentence and the variable E or X or whatever you want. Okay, so this is going to be, this is 350 more than, so 3.5, and you can put that zero in there if you want, but you don't have to, plus 3 times E. And so that expression right there is going to describe the $7.61. Okay? If you switch this around, more than, addition, it's okay to switch things around. So that would be fine. Okay, so make sure that you secure your notes into your notebook. Hopefully those examples are going to be enough to get you through your assignment. Secure this in your notebook. Make sure that you answer your essential question in at least 2 sentences or more.